Welcome to the Empty Opinions Podcast, bitch.
All right, everybody, do you see a new set? That's because there's a new set. For anybody that's listening, you might just want to go check out the YouTube channel to see the fucking video because the set actually looks pretty good. Yeah. I'm about to start this show solo again. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I am trying to build a real set for my guests, so I need a little bit of equipment so I cannot really start it. So I said, just fuck it, let me do a solo episode, cause some shit I ordered off Amazon didn't come. So what the fuck I'm about to do, just do a solo. Bitch, you know I know all this shit. Yeah, I am about to start the shit. I cannot even fucking rap. I don't know why I do a freestyle at the beginning of every episode. I guess this is to show that I like music, I guess. Yeah. It really has no function any other way. All you bitches fucking talking down on me like, hey, yeah, I'ma remember y'all when I get to the top. I'ma be like, oh, y'all doubted me. Psych. Let me just stop talking about this because nobody's ever just doubted me. If anything, everybody just gives me compliments. They're like, oh, you're so good. I mean, you're gonna be successful one day. I'm like, okay, yeah, I really wanna hear that, but I kinda don't, cause I want some opposition for me to be successful, cause I like the odds of punching back, you know, like put in a corner. Like, if you say that I'm not gonna do something, I'm probably gonna do it better next time. So I'm gonna need everybody to say that I won't make it. It's actually gonna be better for just for my career in general. This is a selfish thing. Just say I'm not gonna make it, and it's only gonna make me better. Cause when people say that I'ma be trash, I'ma be like, okay, I got that. Just watch me in a couple of years, be like, yeah, cause you know I'm all about that. Yeah, you know that I can fucking rap. No, I can't. I don't know why I like to rhyme. I guess this is a challenge cause I like music so much. It's only a matter, like when I get successful, I'm definitely gonna be making music, for sure. Like for sure I'm gonna be making music. I don't doubt it at all. Alright, I got like 40 seconds. I'm gonna just let the music play while I get a water bottle. Nah, fuck it. You know, my voice is kinda dry and my throat is kinda dry. No homo, pause, all the necessary shit that you gotta do. All these people always wanna act like I don't know what I'm about to do, cause you know I'm the best in the world. All you people cannot compare to me, cause you know that low key I'm the best on and off TV. Okay, I guess that's it. I don't know what else to say. I think the beat is also done. Yeah, it is. Alright. Hello, everybody. I bet you guys enjoyed that beautiful freestyle. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Empty Opinions Podcast, where no topic is taboo. That's the slogan, and I guess I'll keep it. I've been struggling with figuring out how to sell this shit to people so that I can be a mega successful podcast like the Joe Rogan podcast. But my shit is so different. The podcast is so different episode to episode. It's hard kind of to put a neat bow on it and present it to people. It's always like you never know what to expect with each episode, which can be a little bit unreliable, but fuck it, whatever. Where no topic is taboo. That's what this podcast is. My name is Eladio Polanco. And before we get into this episode, I want to do a little bit of a housekeeping. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Eladio Talks, ELADIO Talks, on both Twitter and Instagram. Those are my personal social media accounts. Also, make sure you follow the podcast's Twitter and Instagram accounts if you want to keep up with what's happening on the podcast. That's at Empty Opinion Pod, not Empty Opinions, Empty Opinion, because that extra letter fucks up the username on Twitter. Whatever, they couldn't allow one more letter. It is what it is. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast's YouTube channel. If you're listening to this, this is where since this is audio and video, it's hard juggling both. If you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe to that YouTube channel to watch the videos of pretty much every, podcast content I do. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go subscribe to your preferred podcast player of choice. preferred podcast player was enough. I don't know why I added of choice in there to a little razzle dazzle, a little salt bay on it. Just if you're watching this on video, please subscribe to the podcast so you can listen to the audio of this, which is another way it's meant to be consumed. I just did the video because most people that I know don't listen to podcasts, so I had to make the video to get some sort of traction from people. And also, audio and video for a podcast is just necessary at this point. You know, the fact that Spotify bought the audio and video rights of the Joe Rogan podcast says that video is just as important. So, if you're watching this, I appreciate you, but also go listen to it. You fucking dumbass. All right, let me not insult. You know, there's like 2 people listening. Let me not scare away the 2 people that are listening to this podcast. But yeah, just listen to it on, you know, it could be Spotify, it could be Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, which is the host of this podcast. Well, I'm the host, the hosting platform. And I don't know, anywhere else. I mean, fucking Stitcher, you know, Pocket Cast, like literally anywhere you could probably find this podcast. So make sure you do that. And if anybody's listening specifically to the Apple Podcasts, is listening to this through the Apple Podcast app, please rate this podcast 5 stars, because the more 5 stars that you have, the more recognition you have. And I guess it's the same with YouTube. I guess at the moment, likes are important. So, you know, on YouTube, if you're watching, please like it. That's it. That's it for housekeeping. Now, you know, what this podcast is going to be about. It's just, this entire podcast is just going to be, it's just going to be talking about the George Floyd incident, and then just delving into the deeper topic of, you know, police brutality, and just everything that's been happening in the world, because the world is just crazy at this point. You thought, it's funny because every month people have pointed out there's always something crazy that happens. I think January was World War III. February was some shit. I don't remember. March was COVID. April was like aliens or murder hornets. May, I don't fucking know what it is. But now we're nearing June, and, you know, riots are happening in the state of Minnesota, in Minneapolis. I'm confused by that shit. I thought at first it was Minneapolis. Then people said Minnesota. I'm like, wait, what? And then I thought, oh, people must be just confusing the 2. But apparently I think Minnesota is a state and Minneapolis is a city that this is happening in. So I guess when people say those 2 names, it's the same shit. Let me actually look that up really quickly. Let me look up Minnesota and Minneapolis. Hold on. So, yeah, Minnesota is a state, and Minneapolis is a city in Minnesota. There we fucking go. It's probably the capital, if I'm not mistaken. Or probably it's a major city in Minnesota. Okay, good. So, yeah, there's a lot of protests. The world is fucking going crazy right now. But let me explain exactly what's been happening recently. So, this past week, if you're listening to this on a Monday, this past week, I think around Tuesday or Wednesday, there was yet another black man that was killed by police brutality. And the way that this time it happened, it's almost outrageous how crazy it was. It's almost outrageous just by the simplicity of it. Like how simply like a black man just died. The police officer, I guess, had mistaken this guy for a refugee, or not a refugee, but like somebody who had committed a crime, and they thought it was him. This police officer just put his fucking, like, brought him to the ground and put his fucking knee. This white officer, might I add, it's important. This white officer puts the knee on the black man's, like, neck to keep him down. And the George Floyd is just constantly saying, hey, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. It's hurting, right? And the white officer kind of just ignores it. And then, like, turns out, like, a couple hours later, he's declared dead. He died because of this. And that's what's so fucked up about this whole situation in general. It's just the fact that, like, just that. And look, I don't know necessarily. I know for sure he was mistreating him. And from the looks of it, we can't fully tell. But from the looks of it, it looks like because he was black. So he just put his fucking knee on him to, like, show authority or to, like, punish him for whatever reason, which happens a lot. I don't think that he meant to kill him by doing that, but it only makes it worse. If he didn't mean to do it, it only makes it worse, because that's how careless and how little they think about a black man's life, that him putting the knee up, he didn't even think that it could kill him. He didn't even care if it did. He wasn't thinking about how this black man was feeling. To him, it was just a fucking thug to his eyes, and just fuck it. I'm gonna disrespect you this way, because that's also, let's be honest, that was another form of disrespect, right? The fact that he did that. So he did that, and the guy died. And I don't think he meant to kill him, and that's what's even worse. I think, in my eyes, I think that's way worse than him meaning to shoot him, just because it shows it's like apathy. You know what I mean? When you kill. Because there's a difference, I think, between racism and apathy. Like, racist cops, you would see them, and I think he was probably racist too, but I'm saying just in general. Like, if you see a racist cop that shoots down a fucking kid that has a gun, they're for sure stupid, but they're probably a little bit racist too, right? And they meant to do that. Or there's other instances where, like, or let's say the choking of Eric Garner. Like, the way they choked him, they wanted to kill him. You know what I mean? And it was like 3 officers. So what I'm saying is, like, sometimes with racism, they do it on purpose. But apathy, so that's what it is. Sometimes they're not apathetic. They're actually, like, they're caring about what they want to do because they want to punish or kill this black man. Sometimes with apathy combined with racism, that's what's the most infuriating, because something as small as just somebody putting a knee to your neck, and it can kill you, and you're not even thinking about it. That, to me, is just way worse. But then, I mean, and when I saw that this happened, at first, it just kind of seemed like yet another unarmed black man innocently killed. And there's been a lot of those. You know what I mean? There's a lot of those that have happened over the years. But so I saw that, and everybody was tweeting about it. Everybody on social media was talking about it. And to me, I kind of just was not... Like, to me, it just kind of became too much. I think that point, even before the riots started, I think what was going through my head is, like, I honestly don't care about this unless, or not that I don't care, but I'm like, okay, I don't care about tweeting, this is awful. Because are we just going to continue tweeting, this is awful? You know what I mean? Or we're just going to continue saying the system needs reworking, this is awful, why did another innocent, unarmed black man get killed? Like, when I started seeing the tweets, I was just like, okay, here we go again. Why the fuck are people just tweeting? Some action needs to be done, right? But then I saw the riots started, and then I was like, okay, now we're talking. This is, and I don't know exactly what it was about this case in specific, like this case specifically. Like, I don't know why this one specifically has caused so much turmoil. Because there's been other ones, even as well as recent as this month, the month of May, this past month. Like, things like that have happened. So, what was it about this specific one? And I think it's just the straw that broke the camel's back, right? I think that's one reason. I think it's just enough is enough. The same way I felt, it's the same way that a lot of other people felt, and that's why action was done. They were just like, okay, yeah, it's over. This is ridiculous. Why the fuck did this happen again? And are we really just going to create a social media, protest? We need to actually protest. And that's how it started. I think that's one reason why, like, the straw that broke the camel's back in this situation was just, yeah, enough is enough. And I think that's why a lot of people have rioted, and it's become as big of a thing as it has been. Also, though, another reason that I was talking to my sister about this, I think another major factor in what's happening also has to do with coronavirus and the fact that nobody's talking about it, but a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is the only reason, but a lot of people are using this situation to protest, obviously, because enough is enough. But it's almost like, this is my opportunity to get out of the house. Because let's not forget, we've been in quarantine and people have been stuck to their houses and not been able to go anywhere for 3 months about now, right? And you're telling me that not one person out of the people rioting are like, fuck, man, finally I can be around people. And it's a good thing. Like, protesting, and to a lesser extent, but still, I feel like, I'll get into the rioting thing in a second, but just protesting and rioting is a good thing to do when it becomes so outrageous with the killing of black men, right? So a lot of people are doing it for a good cause, but a lot of people are still, for sure, in the back of their heads, finally I'm out of the house and I get to be around people and I get to do a good thing. Are you telling me that's not going across people's minds? And I mean, you know, the thing about this combined with coronavirus and the fact that nobody's talking about coronavirus, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but fucking nobody has even mentioned coronavirus right now. Like nobody's thinking about that at all, because at the end of the day, I think, especially the news is definitely not even talking about coronavirus. And I think the reason for this is because people don't fucking care. Like, I made a video on my YouTube channel titled "Quarantine is Done," because quarantine is done. People don't give a fuck about this coronavirus shit. People are going to take their chances. And this is kind of just propelling people to do it even more. And the fact that nobody's talking about it, it's like, because there was obviously some judgment from people if you did shit, like if you weren't wearing a mask, if you weren't doing this, if you weren't doing that in regards to quarantining and coronavirus, people would judge you, right? I know personal people from my Instagram that were judging people for going out and like partying or doing whatever, right? But it's almost like this is the perfect way for people to break quarantining and to not give a fuck about coronavirus without judgment. Because what? Are you going to be like, yo, you shouldn't be protesting the killing of a black man because a coronavirus is out there? What? You can't fucking say that. Are you crazy? People will look at you insane. You cannot say you shouldn't be protesting because, like, did you not see the killing of a black man again? Do you not think it's enough for us to do shit? And it's almost like the perfect combat against coronavirus or coronavirus judgment. You know what I mean? Like, you can't judge people for going out there and protesting the same way you did before, because now it's for a real reason. And it's almost like priorities here at this point. It's like, what's more important? You know, this pandemic, this global pandemic, or, you know, that we send a clear message that enough is enough with the killing of black men. And this leads me to my other point with rioting. I know a lot of people are like not in support of riots and that kind of shit, right? Like, oh, you shouldn't be rioting. It should be all peaceful protest. Violence begets violence, whatever. No. Just no. It's outrageous. You cannot tell people to not riot. That's the only way this country is going to understand what the fuck is happening and that this is a big deal. Because you know what it is? It's like, remember when Colin Kaepernick kneeled and like the message somewhat got lost? They were like, oh, you're disrespecting the flag, which was not the case at all. If anything, it was just trying to bring awareness to police brutality. You remember that? And a lot of people, it became like a huge thing because a lot of people were not even understanding what the kneeling was about. There's your peaceful protest. And that's what happens. Because a lot of people in the United States are fucking hard-headed. And just by kneeling, that's not going to really send a message to a majority of people in this country. You know what is? Burning down a fucking police precinct. That's going to send a message. That's what you have to do now. To show. And not only that, but like people are mad. People are angry that this keeps happening. So what else are they supposed to do? This is the only thing they can do to get that rage across. You know what I mean? This is the only way. And it's only a matter of time. This gets into something much deeper that I've talked about before of, you know, how black people are treated in this country and how tensions have been building in this country since slavery ended. And you know why they have been rising? Because when slavery ended, black people had to live with their slave owners. Like coexist with them, not live with them, but coexist in the same country that they were just oppressed in. You know what I mean? That didn't magically go away. The resentment, all the systematic issue, the systematic racism that's happening in the country, all that shit, that didn't go away. That's still there. It just hasn't exploded. So at one point, this was going to happen. You can't keep telling black people to just do peaceful protests and not riot or whatever, because it's like it's like pushing somebody. It's like you slap. You know how that, like Jesus says, turn the other cheek. That's great in concept, but if somebody slaps you right? And then you turn to the other chick and they slap you again. And then you turn to the other chick and they keep slapping you, keep slapping you, keep slapping you. Doesn't matter who you are. At one point, you're going to slap back. And that's what these riots are. This was only a matter of time. This is just a way that they had to get the rage out because it had to get out somehow. And this is how it did. And rage can't really go out in a peaceful protest. Displeasure, sure. But rage, when people are rageful, this is how it comes out. And there's a real reason. And listen, this isn't even, people like I talked about in a previous episode. There's definitely a race war coming. And a lot of people have been talking about that recently, but it's for sure coming. And this isn't it. This was just like pre-cum. You know what I mean? They haven't busted all the way yet. I mean, that's so gross and disgusting that I'm using that example. But you know what I'm trying to say? This is not the revolution. This is just a hint of what could happen if things like that can keep going. Because this is like a momentary release of anger. But it's not gonna, if nothing changes, this is gonna make this instance even worse in the future. This same instance is gonna happen in the future, but probably 10 times worse. And if nothing happens then, next time, it's like exponential. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And if nothing happens, it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse until there's a full-on fucking civil war race coming. A race war coming. Civil war, race war, whatever you call it. That's what's going to happen if nothing changes. If things like this can keep happening. So then now, what we have to talk about is what now? What's next? What needs to be done? I think there's obviously a lot of systematic issues in the United States with black people, right? I think to me that's kind of obvious. Everybody should know that at this point. If you're still denying that, catch up. You're wrong. You're wrong. But what can be done? I think the first things first, and I even wrote, it's so funny because I wrote an essay for one of my classes before the semester ended, so like about a month ago, about police brutality. And now this happens. It's kind of, the big coincidence. But so this happens. And in my essay, we're kind of just supposed to write about what are the solutions that can be done or what can be done to stop police brutality. And one of the things I talked about in that essay was just the fact that first things first, police need to be held accountable. That's a problem. And the government needs to understand fully why. Because if police keep getting away with this, that's what's making everything worse. Because police are authority. If authority gets away with breaking the law, who governs the police? You know what I mean? The government's certainly not doing that. And we see from all these murders that these policemen get away with. I mean, I was even listening to this podcast, a History Hyenas podcast, where they were talking about the Korean War and what was happening like around the 80s, like late 80s, like 85 to 90, or just around that time. I don't remember, or like late 90s, early 90s. I don't remember exactly when, but when not the Korean War, definitely not the Korean War, but the riots that were happening in LA because of I forget what his name was. What was his name? What's the guy that was fuck? I don't remember his name, but he's a very famous Rodney King. The Rodney King beating started a lot of riots, right? And then before that, something that kind of unofficially started these riots was also the fact that this Korean lady, I think it was a Korean lady, shot this black girl in the back of the head just because they had an argument, right? So what I'm saying with that is, I don't even know what my point was. I'm just saying, I guess riots have been happening. And here's what it is. That Korean lady wasn't a cop, but still the fact that lady was she didn't even go to prison for that, for killing a black woman, shooting her in the back of the head. And that's kind of similar to what's happening right now with the guy that killed George Floyd. Like, police are kind of protecting. And this is what I'm trying to get at. Police are almost their own entity, and nobody's governing them, and they see themselves as brothers, and they don't hold each other accountable. Fucking Lord knows why, because I guess they're more of a not individualistic. What's the opposite? Opposite. Let me look at it. Opposite of individualism, collectivism. So yeah, which collectivism just means like a group is looking for each other. Like you look out for the group, not for the individual, and you kind of protect the individual to keep the peace in a group. That's what police departments and police in general are right now. They're kind of just not holding each other accountable to protect their own little fucking society that they live in, right? So that's what's happening with this guy. I don't fucking know his name. The guy that killed George Floyd. He is like being protected by like fucking 50 cops outside of his house. You know what that is? That's collectivism. That's a whole group looking out for the individual, and to try to keep the peace within. Because the moment that they hold that person accountable, they feel like the harmony of this group ends. And it's almost, it became, police have become just like a fucking frat. They're like a fraternity. That's really what it is. You know what I mean? Because they're all just like looking out for each other and trying to fucking not hold each other accountable because they see themselves like, oh, they don't understand us. Like they make their own group and it's enclosed. And that's a fucking problem. The problem is that police aren't being held accountable. So if they don't hold them, if nobody holds the police accountable, they're just going to keep getting away with everything. And that's why the riots have gotten as big as they are, because nobody's holding police accountable. And that needs to happen. So I think that's one thing that just needs to happen in this country in order for the, in terms of solutions, that just has to be one of the things that's done about it. Because if it's not, it's just going to keep getting worse. Like I said, if this guy, listen, the only way things are going to subside, it's not going to completely go away, obviously, but the only thing, these riots are not going to get fucking crazy and spread across the country. You know what? You want to know the only way that's going to happen? If this guy gets sentenced to whatever the amount of years is for killing somebody. I don't even know what the right sentence is anymore. Let's fucking put 20 years. Why not? Maybe life. I don't fucking know. Just let's say life, to be extreme. That's the only way these riots are going to subside. Because if the guy gets like 3 years in prison, that's a temporary fix. And I've talked about this as early as the past episode that I did, episode 71 with Jaja Robinson. I talked about how all America does is temporary fixes. And temporary fixes are going to cause permanent problems. That's a quote right there. I should post that quote on the Instagram page. Because, they tell me to post quotes of what I say on the podcast and social media accounts so people can easily spread it. I guess I can do that. Fuck. I mean, I don't know. I don't like doing that kind of shit. But, I mean, that's a real thing. And I just made up that quote on my own. I'm sure other people have said it. But I just made it up in the spot right now. Temporary solutions only create permanent problems. Because things just keep getting worse. The system keeps getting more and more damaged if everything just keeps getting pushed to the side and then it explodes. That's what's happening right now with the riots. But yeah, how long have I been going for? About 30 minutes. Yeah, that's about how long I want to keep this episode. I wanted to solely focus on this George Floyd incident because it's just incredibly sad. I mean, this episode is dedicated to George Floyd. I just want to say that. Rest in peace, George Floyd. Your death was not in vain. Your death was not meaningless. I feel like this is for sure a big turning point, or it has to be. This is going to be a turning point either for the better or for the worse. No in between. This death is the straw that broke the camel's back. Something is going to come out of this. Even if nothing comes out of it, something's going to come out of it in the long run. Is going to be definitely part of the reason why maybe this country goes with shit if nothing happens. Oh, and I guess before I go, I just want to talk about how fucking crazy it. I mean, because it has to do with this George Floyd situation and the riots happening. I mean, the fact that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, tweeted, he said, listen, these thugs, which is obviously coded language, and Trump knows what he's doing. He's been using coded language for like 3 years now. We know he does this. Longer than that, 5 years, let's say. Trump knows. He said the word thugs, and that's coded language, obviously. That's how the tweet started, the one I read. He was just saying, I talked to the mayor, and these thugs are, ruining George Floyd's legacy, so we're going to fucking, send the military and the FBI, and they're going to help fucking destroy, end this. And then, of course, he ended a tweet with, when the looting happens, the shooting happens. Which, I don't have to explain to you how fucking crazy that is. I don't have to explain to you how crazy of a statement. Let me see. Okay. I was making sure the picture is still in the back. I don't have to explain to you how crazy it is that a president kind of threatened citizens because they're rioting and protesting. And he's like, you know what? Y'all keep looting, we're going to shoot you. And the worst thing about it, similar to the situation with this cop that killed George Floyd, is just how ignorant Trump was. I don't think Trump thought this through at all. I don't think this was on purpose. I don't think he was really wanting to suggest we're going to kill everybody. I think he kind of just, because I feel like a lot of what Trump does, there's barely any thought in. A lot of things do, but a lot of things that are more serious don't. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he said when the looting happens, the shooting happens. When he was writing that shit on his phone, he was not thinking about what the fuck he just wrote. Because if he did, he would know that's fucking insane for a president to say. That's something that fucking Hitler would say. Like, sincerely. Well, maybe not that crazy. I don't know that much about Hitler. That's something a dictator would say. I'm pretty sure there's been dictators that say, yo, we're going to kill you if you protest. China has said that. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I mean, the last thing, and it has to do more with Trump with this, but I feel like it's fucked up that Trump became president during these 4 years, because it's like these were the worst 4 years for any president to step in that isn't a politician. So Trump is the first president, I think. No, he's not the first. But he's one of the least experienced presidents that we've had in the office. And he's had to deal with the worst shit that this country has ever experienced, including a global pandemic and now these riots and much more. Things escalating with China. It's just kind of fucking crazy that now Trump steps into office. He got what he wanted. He became president, but now he has to deal with some of the worst problems that America's ever faced, ever. But, yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. I just wanted to do a full podcast episode on George Floyd and everything that's happened around this guy, and just, how enough is enough. That's going to be the title of this episode. Enough is enough. Things need to be done. Because if they're not, it's only going to get worse, right? It's only going to get worse. And I mean, I feel like in terms of protesting, I'm not the type of person that really goes out and protests. I feel like to me, this is my kind of protest. And that's why this is where I'm most effective at. Like, I wouldn't be that effective at a real life protest. I wouldn't be that effective at a riot. Be too anxious to be stealing shit or breaking shit or like protesting in front of a cop's face. But I feel like the best way I could have done this is by doing what I love to do and what I feel like I'm the best at, which is podcasting and broadcasting. This is the best that I'm at. This is the best thing I could do because this is the best that I could do. You know what I mean? I'm just, and so because I haven't really talked about this whole George Floyd situation, like in social media or whatever. And I've been seeing a lot of people saying, if you're a non-black person and you're not talking about how disgusting this is, don't fucking complain when black people don't accept you, or when, black people, or like, don't get mad when black people get mad at you when you benefit from their culture, but then don't talk about what the fuck is going on. Which is, I mean, it's a fact at this point, and we're starting to see it in spades. I mean, I'm seeing so many like non-black people, talking about this, like white people, Hispanics, Asians, like people. This struck a chord, and I don't know why. I know why, but I don't understand. Maybe it's just a confluence of events that led to this, or it's just as plainly as the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, enough is enough. Like the titles, this episode is titled. But yeah, I mean, this is struck in a chord with everybody, and it's so much so for me that now whenever I see, it's kind of made me hate. It's making me hate social media even more, because I'm seeing a lot of people in social media who are, and there's always these people who are just ignorance is bliss. I don't understand what the fuck is happening. I'm not going to talk about it. You know what I am going to talk about? Hey, who wants to add me to my close friends? who wants to add me to their close friends list. Yo, I'll add you to my close friends list if you add me to your close friends, right? Or want shout out for shout out, comment for comment. It's like, and I posted like an Instagram story about this. I literally just said, if I see anybody, I mean, this situation is so fucking crazy. Things are happening in this country that are so crazy that simply you cannot claim ignorance. Even if you're not the type of person that goes political and stuff, like I'm just seeing a lot of people on my Instagram that are not even talking about this. They're fucking talking about insignificant shit. They're like, yo, this new Lil Boat 3 album is tough. And I'm not saying you can't live life and also address this, but it's like, it seems like off-putting to me when somebody posts about something that's super insignificant while something as crazy as this is happening. It's like, and also as at the time of this recording, I recently saw that Sony like announced like the date that they're going to talk about the PlayStation 5, and like people are retweeting and talking about it. And I just retweeted and said, read the fucking room. Read the room. This PlayStation 5 is not important. There's a lot of stuff. Here's my overall problem. Is there's a lot of stuff right now happening in this country that are not important. And nobody should be talking about it. Absolutely nobody. We should only be really talking about this because that's the important thing. Anything else is not important, at least at this very moment. Maybe in like 2 days from now, you can talk about how the PlayStation 5 is going to come out and you're excited to play it. But right now, no, it's not the time for that. It's serious now. Like, shit is serious right now. Like, more than it's been in a while. So it's not, you cannot hide behind ignorance is bliss anymore. Especially in social media world, where everybody's connected and everybody knows what the fuck is going on, whether you want to or not. Wait a couple of days to talk about the PlayStation 5. Wait a couple of days to ask people to buy your fucking platter. Okay? There's something more serious right now, and that's what should be talked about right now from everybody. But yeah, that's how I'm going to end this episode. Yeah, that kind of got me mad. But yeah, that's it for this episode of Empty Opinions. Episode 72. Enough is enough. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And I'll catch you guys next week for episode 73.